Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. Today, I bring you Peter Shankman. You're here because you want to learn. You want to make the most of your time working out or driving or whatever else it is you're doing right now. And I'm like you. I learn a ton from listening to great shows, but I don't always remember everything that I learned. Sometimes I don't even get a chance to listen all the way through the episode, so it's almost like I'm wasting my time because I'm not putting this stuff into action. As a listener, you don't have to worry about that because I create an action plan for you for every single episode, including this one. So you can maximize your time and use the actionable, practical advice to help you get clear and stay focused on exactly what you need to do to achieve the life you want to live. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/action to get instant access to the action plan from today's guest. So that's jimharshawjr.com/action. Peter is a spectacular example of what happens when you merge the power of pure creativity with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and a dose of adventure and make it work to your advantage. An author, entrepreneur, and corporate keynote speaker, this worldwide connector is recognized for radically new ways of thinking about customer service, social media, PR, marketing, advertising, and ADHD. Peter has keynoted events for corporations ranging from startups to Fortune 100s in over 25 countries around the world. Peter's clients include American Express, Walt Disney World, the Department of Defense, and lots of others. As usual, if you don't have time to listen to the entire episode, or if you like something you hear, make sure you grab the action plan. Go to jimharshawjr.com/action. Peter, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making time, Peter. So tell us about your background. Tell us, just maybe a little bit about where you grew up and how you got to where you're at now.
Sure. I mean, I grew up in New York City. I'm a born and raised city kid all my life. And I've had the fortune, I guess the good fortune of being because I was a city brat, sort of learning at an early age, sort of how to deal with everything. It was sort of like you learn how to hustle quicker. You learn how to be more faster. And there's all those that wound up benefiting me tremendously later in life. The interesting part was that I grew up with ADHD, and when I grew up in the 80s, they didn't know what 70s and 80s. They didn't know what that was. It was called sit down, you're disrupting the class disease. And it wasn't until years later, probably like 10 years ago, that I realized that I was actually all the things that I like to do, like, the growing up in the city, my skydiving, my running, all those things were actually just self-medicating. I didn't realize at the time, but I was finding, acting, going on stage, all those things were ways to self-medicate and become better at sort of how I was handling my ADHD. And it actually turned into being very, very beneficial to me.
So there are better ways or worse ways, I should say, to self-medicate than running Ironmans and skydiving and acting, right?
Well, you know what? There are worse ways. And a lot of times, a lot of people fall into those worse ways, whether it's drugs or illicit behavior, things like that. I was fortunate that I grew up in an environment with good parents who sort of set me on a good path, and I learned how to sort of get better. But it was definitely understanding what I was doing and why I was doing the things I was doing. No question about it.
So you see your ADHD as a positive, as a benefit, as something that how where did that mindset come from? Looking at something that most people consider as a negative, you've turned it into a positive and created a lot of success because of it.
So back in 1998, I was working. I left my job online after 3 years with AOL. I had a great time, and I moved back to New York. And I was consulting for this first company, or working for this first company. And like a week in, I'm like, wow, you guys are making me check in, and I have to punch in a time card, and I'm only allowed to take certain times and you want me to wear a tie. Okay, this isn't going to work. And I realized that I just didn't have the ability to play well with others as it was. There are certain things that I'm great at, and there are certain things I'm terrible at. And some of those things I'm terrible at are, conforming to certain rules that don't necessarily work. And so for me, I was able to, I took the risk. I said, I'm going to go out on my own, and I'm going to try to do my own thing. And if it works, great. If it fails, I'll go get a job. And that's always been the mentality I've had. If it works, great. If it fails, I'll go get a job. And it's been 19 years. It'll be 19 years this year, and I haven't had to get a job yet. And that's actually pretty awesome. So for me, it's really about understanding what my skills are, where they lie, and how I can turn those into ways to generate revenue.
So what's your view on failure? I mean, I imagine you've experienced some failures along the way.
Oh God, yeah. I have a napkin on my in my office here that says "fail often." I scribbled that down one night, and I'm a huge fan of failure. If you don't fail, there's no way you can learn how to improve. I believe that failure is one of the best things you could possibly do. I won't hire anyone who hasn't failed. I want to know what they've learned. Some of the best things I've ever done have come out of my failures. And I think the only true failure is not realizing that there's stuff to learn from that. I really believe that.
Like, what's an example? I mean, it's we talk a lot about failure on the show, and you're starting to hear it more and more. And maybe it's just me because I have my ear to the ground about failure because, my podcast and my TEDx talk. But, it kind of just sounds like, niceties, right? It's like, well, we don't really want to fail, right? And of course we don't want to fail. We're not seeking failure, but it's just a matter of
we're not seeking failure, but we also have to understand how to embrace it.
Right. So how do we embrace it? And what's an example? What's a time where you did it?
We have to embrace it. So there was a time when I screwed up. I started a company at one point where I believed it was a great way to connect. I thought you could connect if you figured out. So I travel a lot. Let's start again. I travel a lot, and I figured that I'd never sat next to anyone fun, and I figured I could start a site that would allow you to choose your seatmate before you get on the airplane. And I really, after sinking my own money into it, and I realized I was too early in the game. And had I done it today, it'd be pretty awesome. I would be able to get tons of back in everything into Facebook, and it would work. I was too early, and I built this company that just wasn't ready for prime time yet because the masses weren't ready for it yet. And, I learned this fabulous lesson. Just because you are learning and it's something that seems interesting to you and seems cool to you doesn't necessarily mean the masses are ready for it yet, especially if you think differently. So, understand your audience completely, what they do, how they do it, things like that.
So was that before you founded HARO?
Yeah, that was before HARO. HARO, and it was just one of those things where I realized, okay, this is a better way. There have to be better ways to do this. Yeah.
And so I imagine you learned some lessons along the way that helped you make HARO the success that it is today. I mean, so for the listener, HARO is HARO, help a reporter out, and Peter founded that. So how did that go? And where did that idea come from?
HARO came from the ability to talk to everyone. I talked to tons and tons of people and realized that no matter how much I talk to them, the only way I'm not going to find out everything about you on a plane is if you're sitting next to me is if you fake your own death. So I like talking to people. And I'm like, how can I turn that into something that benefits people? Not even making money in the beginning, but how can I turn that into something that benefits people? And I wound up realizing that the more I could communicate with people about what they needed, the more I could listen to them and find out what they needed and how I could help them, the better everyone was. So I basically would talk to reporters. Reporters would be like, Peter, I'm looking for a source on blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I know everyone. Let me see who I know and who can help you find. And that was, like I said, originally me just doing it for fun, and it turned into something huge. And it was literally about me trying to help people, and that's pretty much what I try to do with everything.
And were there any failures along the way, or was that something you just you flipped the switch and it all worked well?
HARO blew up pretty quickly, but I learned a lot from it. Like, I made some mistakes. I hired the wrong people sometimes. I trusted people I shouldn't have. I mean, you make mistakes, but you learn, and you learn how to make it better.
Yeah. And so what are you doing now, Peter?
And again, I think that one of the benefits of that is learning from people. What am I doing now? I currently I do several things. I run the #1 podcast for ADHD. It's called Faster Than Normal. It's available on iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere. And we interview celebrities and famous people, and yourself for that matter, about people who have ADHD or who have gifts and lessons they can teach people with ADHD about how to understand that having ADHD is a gift. It's not a curse. So I do that. I have a wonderful mastermind group of it's a private group, about 175 people, all entrepreneurs. It's called Shank Minds, and we help each other, and we help each other realize that entrepreneurship, while difficult and lonely, is still the best thing in the world you could do. And we help people every day. It's great. I love being a part of that. I consult and speak all over the world on customer service and marketing. And then I have a book coming out about Faster Than Normal, about ADHD. It's called Faster Than Normal. It's coming out in October, being published by Random House. What else? I'm a TV talking head. I talk about marketing and advertising and PR and things like that, and social media and politics, and go on CNN and CNBC and all that. And so I'm staying busy. And I mean, most importantly, I have a 3-year-old daughter who keeps me ridiculously busy, and she is just a blast.
So I listen to a lot of my podcasts on iTunes on like 1.5 speed, and I feel like you're on like 1.5 speed. You're definitely faster than normal, Peter.
People have told me that Faster Than Normal is the only podcast they listen to that they don't have to speed up, which I think is kind of cool.
I believe it. So you see ADHD as a gift. Why? Why do you see it as a gift? How does it help you become successful?
Well, for me, I see it as a gift because my brain thinks differently. Most people on normal brains, they think, okay, so I have to go and, I want to try this. So maybe I'll do some market research and I'll ask some people. And then maybe if something pans out, I'm just like, screw it, let's do something. And like an hour later, I've launched a company. And, that has good and bad, but, the good is awesome. It's the ability to keep up with that faster brain. If someone gave you a Lamborghini and a Honda and said, which one do you want? You choose a Lamborghini. It's a faster car. It's sexier, but you have to know how to drive it. If you don't know how to drive it, you're going to slam it into a tree. So you have to understand how to use it well. And so that's really where the benefits of Faster Than Normal come in. If you know how to be faster than normal and you know how to use that brain to the best of your ability, you really have that. You can use that talent to your advantage.
So what I find interesting is that even for folks like me who I don't have ADHD, I don't feel like I have. I mean, I may have a touch of it, but I think a lot of people probably feel like they have a touch of it, right? Because it's so hard to stay focused in this world. Like when I'm sitting in my office and my phone lights up or beeps or buzzes or an email pops in or I finish a task, I'm automatically want to go check Twitter or check my email inbox or what. It's so easy to get distracted in this day and age. And I feel like so everybody sort of has this lack of focus that's sort of coming in from this environment that we're in. I mean, do you have any strategies or tactics for maybe for the person who has ADHD or even for the rest of us who might not?
I think that for me, it's not about, not everyone has ADHD. I think that being distracted doesn't necessarily mean you have ADHD.
Sure.
Being distracted simply means that there are distractions in this world. But I think the key for me, I do certain things that are very important to my life that make sure that my life can function the way it does. So, for instance, I won't go a day without exercising. I have to do something physical in the morning to sort of get my brain jump started. And it's usually first thing in the morning. I'm up by around 3:45, 4 a.m. every day. I go to bed early. But I'm up early because that's the best way my brain knows how to function. I go to the gym. The gym gives me the endorphins, the serotonin, and the dopamine I need to kick through. I have 2 types of outfits in my closet. I have one side of my closet says office, and the other says TV or speaking. And the office has T-shirts and jeans, and this TV or speaking has button-down shirts and jeans, and that's it. I have gorgeous suits, but I keep it in another closet. If I had to keep everything in there and look everything. Oh, I remember that outfit. Oh, I got that sweater. Laura gave me that sweater. I wonder how she's doing. I should look her. 3 hours later, I'm naked and haven't left the house. I'm on Facebook. So I need to make sure that I am very aware of how I'm living my life and doing certain things. I try to eat really clean. It's very much about having these traditions and these sort of life rules, I call them, that allow me to focus the way I do. I do all my writing on airplanes. I write my books on airplanes because that's the most I understand that I am very much about hyperfocus or no focus at all. And so I can get my hyperfocus on a plane without being interrupted. I'm aware of my habits when it comes to things like drinking or things like, so I don't drink, right? I have 2 speeds. My speeds are namaste and I'll cut a bitch. And I don't have a middle ground. And so for me, not having a middle ground means that I have to be aware of the things I do and what they can do to me. And so it's just easier not to drink. It's the great line from the movie War Games, the last line, the only winning move is not to play.
It's interesting because most of my guests they have this awareness of their habits and their tendencies and what makes them tick. I don't think most people do. I don't think most people take the time to actually figure out and become aware of their tendencies and how they can improve, or things are going to decrease their productivity. How did you become aware, and why have you become aware? I mean, was it a matter of sitting down with a coach or therapy, or just kind of doing your own work and your own thinking around this? I mean, how do you become that aware so that you can create systems like you have to help you become successful?
I became aware because I didn't have a choice. I realized that I was doing things that were hurting me, just in terms of from not listening to people that I cared about because I was paying attention to something else or whatever. And over time, I just realized that, you know what, these are the things that are causing me to not be as happy as I want to be. The ultimate thing for me was October of 2015. I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize the person looking back at me. He was fat. He was miserable. He was hungover. He was just not happy. And I realized something has to change. And I realized that the only thing I could do is focus on fixing the things that I believe are wrong with me. I can't focus on fixing anyone else. And so once I discovered that, it was really like a wake up call. And that's where I started at that's where I started at the gym. That's where I started really getting back into knowing myself. And that's what I do. And that's where I am. And I feel a lot better right now. You know, all you could do at the end of the day is care about yourself. You can't do anything more than that.
Do you read a lot? Do you educate? Do you find?
I do. I like to
read?
Yeah, I listen to podcasts. I read. I read the one magazine I read once a week is called The Week, and it's sort of a encapsulation of what happened that week. It's a great way to get really smart really fast. But I like reading. I try to find books that sort of appeal to me, not only about things I love, but also about things I've never heard of before, because it's great, in my opinion, it's great to learn something new about something you don't know. Living in New York City, I don't know that much about the outdoors. I don't know much about forests or things like that. So I'm currently on a forestry and hiking kind of kick. I'm reading as much as I can get about that. But yeah, I'm fascinated by things that I like to learn about that can make me smarter and just make me I feel like the more I know, the happier I am too.
Yeah. And why entrepreneurship? Why do you think entrepreneurship is such a great thing? I mean, I know you're a big proponent of it, and you talk. Obviously, you're a successful entrepreneur. Well, you teach it. And you talk about why is it a good thing?
Let's understand. I'm a proponent of entrepreneurship, but it's not a great thing. Entrepreneurship is a bitch. Entrepreneurship is heavy duty, and entrepreneurship will kick your ass left and right if you let it. On the flip side, it could be the greatest thing in the world. You have to know that going in. It's not easy. You want easy, get a job. You'll get a paycheck, you'll get health insurance, you'll be happy. Entrepreneurship, the chips are stacked against you from the second you decide you want to be one, right? It's literally jumping off a cliff without a parachute, hoping you can build one on the way down before you hit the ground. It's tough. And so I believe that for me, it's everything I talked about earlier. You know, I don't play well with others. I don't sit down and adjust with rules. So I need entrepreneurship in my life, but it is a bitch. And if as much as I love it, I know it would be easier to work for someone else, but it wouldn't be, because I would be miserable. And so it's trade-off, and you accept that trade-off because it's beneficial to you.
In some sense, it seems like somebody with ADHD would function better in a work environment where there are already systems in place and a structure in place for them, no?
It depends. There are some people who do that very well. There are some people who are not good at that at all. I was not good. I have to make my own rules and sort of structure. If I try to take it from anyone else, it usually doesn't work.
Yeah, I imagine it has to do with culture too.
I talked to someone on the podcast earlier today who was in the Army, and he said the structure he got in the Army was the best thing for him. But for other people, it doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah. And so you've created a lot of different companies. You've had a lot of success in a lot of different areas of your life. You know, you finished an Ironman. Am I right?
I have finished one Ironman. I've done two. I've completed one. The second one I did, I woke up in an ambulance.
Wow.
Last thing I remember was stopping for water at mile 13. But I have a third one coming up at the end of this year. I've done a bunch of half Ironman. I have a bunch more of those this year. So yeah, for me, it's a lot of fun. But again, that's how I push myself. It's how I get those endorphins. Some people, what's the line from Point Break? Some guys snort for it, jab a vein for it. All you got to do is jump.
Yeah. Classic movie. So for the listener who kind of wants to learn from your habits, and what kind of habits do you have that you feel have set you apart over the years and helped you achieve the success and level of success you've achieved to this point?
Several things. I mean, the first thing some of the things that have come the latest for me is being very much about getting up early, going to bed early, understanding that I need those 7 or 8 hours of sleep, understanding that what I eat affects my mood, affects my life, knowing that healthy for me is important, and understanding that my brain, because it works differently, needs certain things that other people don't necessarily need. So, I might, if I have to walk into a meeting and I know it's going to bore the hell out of me, I might take the stairs 15 flights up just to give myself a little brain kick of endorphins and serotonin and dopamine that'll push me through. It's about knowing yourself. You can't do anything until you know yourself.
And any actions you can recommend for the listener to take, let's say, in the next 24 to 48 hours to really start moving toward achieving big goals? Everybody has these sort of dreams and visions for their life. I mean, any recommended actions that someone can take in the next 24 to 48 hours? Yeah, I mean, I think that, if you look at everyone who goes on right now, we're towards the end of January. So this is right around the time those resolutions fail. Resolutions fail because they're not real. Rituals work. So commit to yourself that you're going to do something for 30 days. Commit to yourself that you're going to spend a week, that you're going to make an agreement with yourself on Sunday, that you will do something for a week, and you're not allowed to change that agreement until the following Sunday. If you do it all week and it doesn't work, sure, you can change it then, but you're not allowed to change that agreement until the following Sunday. You'll be amazed if you could push through for one week, how much you're not going to want to change it. Yeah. It's only at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning when you have to get up early that you want to change it. Yeah, it's a great way to build habits. Absolutely. Peter, do you have a favorite book, or maybe it's a book, maybe it's a podcast that you might recommend? Well, obviously, I'm a fan of my podcast, It's Faster Than Normal, but there are a bunch out there that I love. Tropical MBA is a great one about entrepreneurship. I'm a huge fan. What else are you? Currently loving The West Wing Weekly, which is a podcast about the TV show The West Wing. They analyze every single episode. I'm just a West Wing junkie. I am Deep Work by Cal Norris was a great book. I just finished reading that. Of course, Faster Than Normal has a book coming out in October, so that's exciting. I try to read anything put in front of me. If it's exciting and it teaches me something I didn't know, I want to know about it. And if you could look back in your life and sit down across the table from your 20-year-old self, looking eye to eye at your 20-year-old self, and you could offer yourself one piece of advice, what would you say to yourself? It gets a lot better than you could ever imagine. That's great. So you build these habits, you have these systems, and you can build an amazing life. So, Peter, thank you so much for making time. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to come on the show. Why don't you take a minute to promote yourself a little bit about your book, your course, your podcast, etc. Sure. So my life is at shankman.com. That's easy. The podcast is at fasterthannormal.com, and the course that goes along with the podcast can be found at FTN. Faster Than Normal, ftncourse.com. My mastermind is shankminds.com, and I'm at Peter Shankman on all the socials, so I encourage people to reach out anytime they want. Excellent. And for the listener, I will have everything there that he just mentioned in the action plan, jimharshawjr.com/action, to get links and resources and quotes and everything else, especially that quote about you're either namaste or I'll cut a bitch. So definitely going to have that quote in the action plan. So, good stuff, Peter. Thanks so much for taking time to come on the show. Pleasure was mine, Jim. Stay in touch. And for the listener, until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.